Good morning, welcome to Asher to Torah Time. We are up to Perek Vav, which is a exceedingly difficult, complicated Perek. My head was spinning when I was trying to figure this out, and I can't say I totally did. But Hashem should take us on a good path. It was 480 years from when the Jews left Egypt, which really means it was 440 years from when they entered Eretz Yisrael, because they were 40 years in the Midbar. Fourth year, the month of Iyar, which is called the month of Ziv, the month of light, that's like in the spring. It's the second month in the second month to the count of months, and this fourth month was the Melachim al Yisrael, a fourth year that in Shlomo's reign. And he built the house for God. And here we're going to go into all these measurements. Now you have to understand, in the ancient world, when you're going back in the times of Nach, of Novi, basically this is trying to describe like an architectural plan. It's like a blueprint. But we're not giving you the blueprint with a drawing. We're giving you the blueprint just by telling you measurements, and you have to, in your imagination, somehow figure out and visualize how it looked like. Anyway, so just before you're going through the measurements and the words, I'm just going to show you the picture they have here from Mechana Mikdash. This is the picture of the Beis Hamikdash Abana Shlomo. Just that you should be able to visualize it somewhat. And so, it's 60 amas at the length, going like from east to west, and 20 amas wide, and 30 amas high. And the ulam, so look, and the ulam is the antechamber in the front. It's 20 ames, and the width of the bias. So I wish I had a clearer picture, but basically this piece in the front is what we're discussing. Now, so basically there's three rooms in the Beis Hamikdash Shebana Shlomo. There's like an entry, and then there's the big ulam, and then there's the koche kochim in the back. Now on the sides over here, on these two sides, there's two sides that have three rows of, let's call it rooms or chambers. And then there's a second floor on top. The second floor on top is not described over here. That's described in Divrei Hayom. So, so now, Shlomo Melech built for the Beis Hamikdash windows. Now these windows were different than all regular windows. They were shkufim atumim. They were, usually a window is you have it wide on the outside in order to stream in sunlight, and once you got in, it gets narrower. Here it was the opposite. Inside of the Beis Hamikdash, the window sills or the frame of the window was wide, and when you got to the outside of the wall, it narrowed out. And the idea was that the light of the Beis Hamikdash is going to shine out to the world. Usually you're trying to bring out the light from the outside in. The Beis Hamikdash was a light from the inside out. So they built it shkufim atumah. They built around this house as kiros abayis sovev leichav v'ladvid. They made these offices or these rooms around and around, and these rooms were built in a very interesting fashion. Why was it built on this interesting fashion? Was because we'll see later in the pasuk that the stones that were used to build the Beis Hamikdash didn't have metal used on them. But like we discussed earlier, it's a mistake that people say that no metal was used on the stones. It means no metal was used on the stones once it reached the area of the Beis Hamikdash. But when it was quarried, when it was removed from the mountain, then they used steel. It was only after the stones came to the area of the Beis Hamikdash and it was actually used, that's when they stopped using steel. So, when you have a stone wall, how do you have beams running across? If you ever go to the Koisel today, you can see from the stones outside, you see these holes. You see in the stones of the wall, especially when you go into the Davidson Center over there, whatever, on the tunnels of the side of the Koisel, you see that in the stones there's these little square holes going into every few feet. There's another, why? What are those holes? Those are holes where they put beams. That's how you inserted a wooden beam into the stone. But if you don't use any metal tools on the stone, how do you put beams on top to create a roof? So imagine you're having 3 rooms over here, 3 stories over here. How do you get the beams that's holding up the floor of the second story of offices? The answer is, I'm just trying, just for lack of a better, when he built the stone walls, he built it like steps. This was fat or wider, and then it went in, and then it went in like an amma, and then it went in, and it went in another amma. So therefore you had a ledge, and on top of that ledge, you were able to place beams. So you see, just like over here, there's a ledge. Imagine this is a ledge over here. Now I could put beams on top over here. Same thing went on inside. The wall was wider by the first floor, narrower by the second floor, and even narrower by the third floor, thereby creating a ledge. Then on top of that, you were able to put beams that was able to create a floor, and that's how you were able to. Oh, let me see. Here you could see like a side structure. Here you could see where there's like, this is the wall, and then therefore you have a beam. So the higher you got, the wider it was. And then on the other side you had a protruding stone that served as the base for the beam. Anyway, the kid said, go online and check out diagrams and pictures of the Beis Hamikdash Shabbat Shlomo, and you'll see. So the middle one was 6 amas wide, and the top one was 7 was 7 amas wide. Why was each one getting wider? Because the walls were getting narrower in order to allow for the beams to have a resting place. Because there was this width of wall that went around, that you should be able to put beams. We'll call it this migrois, is like a ledge. Levilti achos bekiras habayis. In order that you shouldn't have to make holes in the wall in order to put it inside of the wall. V'habayis bibanosoi, and the bayis, when it was built, Evan Shleima Masa, it was one big stone, and it was quarried from the mountain. Nivno umakovois v'agarzen kol klibarzel loy nishma babayis bihibanosoi. There was no sound of any metal or hammers or chisels in the house when it was built. That means once it hit the Beis Hamikdash, there was no steel used. Therefore, it was built in this way that they shouldn't have to chisel out a hole in order to put the beams. Now, Pesach Hatzela Tichoina, the opening of the middle. Now we're going back into the main chamber. Pesach Hatzela Tichoina. No, I'm sorry. El Kesef Habayis Hayemonis. That means the doorway to go into these side rooms was on the side. That means they don't have a picture over here, but theoretically over here on the side there was a doorway going into these two. This is how you entered into these. Basically, it's 3 buildings over here. There's one building here. Then there's another building here, another side building of offices, and here another side building of offices. So inside over here, you had a doorway. And then there was like holes with ladders going from one layer to the next layer. Have a picture there of it? ladders going, huh? What do you see here? The ladders going up. Oh, here they have. Yeah, so here he's showing you like the entrance. So the entrance is on the side. I don't know if it's on the side over here or the side over here, but there was like holes over here, and you had ladders going up in order to get you from one layer to the next. So that's how you entered it. So Pesach Atzela Tichoino. The Pesach is in the middle of the bottom layer. El Kesef Abayis Hayamonis, on the side on the right side. Uvelulem Yalu Ala Tichoino, and there was these ladders going up. And from the middle floor to the top floor. So they built the house, and they finished it. And they covered the roof of this house, gave him and they covered it with boards of cedar wood. Basically, we're describing all of the intricate details of the Beis Hamikdash Shabbat Shlomo. Now, I have to tell you that yesterday I was searching for it online. I was trying to find, models and graphs in order to understand how it was working. Now, it bothered me because on the Beis Hamikdash, on the second Beis Hamikdash, if you go online, there's many different 3D tours that you can take. They have from Shmuel Friedman and Borough Park made this beautiful 3D tour. There's so many different tours that they take you on a virtual tour. Today, if you ever went to the coastal tunnels, you could put on these, I don't know what they call these 3D glasses that you can actually turn around and walk inside and see it. All of these tools that they have, these graphic tools, are all on the second Beis Hamikdash. On the first Beis Hamikdash, there's hamish nothing out there. The only thing that you can find there are Christian 3D versions of it, but whoever made it very shoddy, primitive graphical work. There's a need for. Anyway, al kol habayis. They built these cells around the whole house. Chomesh ames kamosoy. It's 5 ames high. Vayecho is es habayis. It's connected to the house. Ba'atze arozim, through beams of cedar wood. Vahi devar Hashem al Shlomo. And it was during the binyan of this house, during the building of the house, that God spoke to Shlomo Melech through Achia Shaloni. Leimar, and he told him, he was like the messenger of the house. Abai says, the house that you're building with such beauty and with such detail. Now look, God, it's like God says, wow, you're building me such a beautiful house. But I just want to tell you that I'm really not interested in beautiful houses, unless if you're going to listen to my commands, and you're going to heed and guard all of my commandments, to follow them, then I'm going to uphold what I told your father David, that my shchin is going to be in the Beis Hamikdash, and it's going to be a place where people are going to connect to me, and it's going to be a place where I'm going to dwell here below. Shachanti b'soich b'nei Yisrael. Shachanti b'soich b'nei Yisrael. I'm going to dwell within the Jewish people. V'lo ye'ezoi v'es'am Yisrael. And I won't abandon my nation Yisrael, which is basically what the whole Beis Hamikdash was all about. Basically, the whole Beis Hamikdash, it's not about having a big fancy house and doing a whole list of checklists where you slaughter animals and you spritz their blood and you did your to-dos and you go home. It was a place where people experienced the divine. It was the ultimate experiential place for the whole world. You have to understand, even from Lahavdil, even if you see the 3D videos, even from the second Beis Hamikdash, you have to always go into the mindset of when people in the ancient world, what did it mean? How did people live? Today you drive by and you can have blocks and blocks of mansions. You You have to understand, in the ancient world, people were living in tiny little homes, much smaller than we live today. Even when you go into the excavations, and you see like the sizes of rooms and the sizes of houses are tiny. People ate less and people everything less. And then when you come into this one humongous edifice, you have no idea how big this was. And it would be humongous in today's standards. And you have no idea what it means, the awe and the hashirah that you have over there. And also you see the materials that they use and the details. It's not like, you have to understand, people didn't walk around with smartphones and they were able to see anything that they wanted. And people didn't see gold for years. They just didn't see it. They didn't see the materials. They never saw it. And people, they imported artisans. You had to be from a certain part of the world, and it had to be a Messiah passed down from generation to generation, that you should know how to carve wood and how to put gold and make inlays on it. So when you brought everything together from the whole world and you came to such a house of Hashem, and the musical instruments and the hymns that was being played, there was like meditational trances that in a second you were out, you were in a different dimension. So that's what Hashem said, that if you're going to follow the rules and the boundaries, then I'm going to dwell within them, and then your beautiful home is going to accomplish its mission. Shechanti b'soich b'nei Yisrael v'lo ezer v's'am Yisrael. Even Shlomo Sabayis, and Shlomo built the beams of the house, Vaychaleu, and he finished it. Vayiven Askiris Abayis miBoisa. He built it from within. Now all the measurements we were saying before are all inner measurements, inside measurements. That's without measuring the walls. Bitzalois. So the question is, how did they? You can't put gold on top of stone. Therefore, before they wanted to put gold within, so first they had to put in beams. Betzalel said they had to put wood beams. Mikarka bayis at kiris asifoin, until the ceiling. Tifo eitz mi bayis vaitzafes akarka bayis betzalis beroshim. And on top of vaitzafes karka bayis, on the floor they put tzalis beroshim, is a different type of a wood. Vayiven esner mama, and they built it 20 amos miyarkase abayis, from the beams of the house. And from there they built it inside to the Kodesh HaKodashim. The Kodesh HaKodashim was called a Dvir. And there was like a mechitza between it. And it was called the Amotraxen, the Kodesh HaKodashim. V'alboyim ba'amo hoyo abayas. V'alboyim ba'amo hoyo abayas. And it was 40 amma was inside the bayas. Hu ha'heichel lefonai. That was the size of the heichel, which is in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. V'erez el abayas penimo, and these beams of cedar wood was covering the house from inside, and it was covered with all these different types of designs. Miklaas pikoyim, it was like designs of wheat. Pekoyim is like round like eggs, or round cylindrical designs. Ifiture, ropes, tzitzim, flowers, all different types of designs was made on these walls. Hakoil erez, everything was made from erez, which is cedar wood. Ein evaniri, you couldn't see any stone. Which the fact that you didn't see stone was a chiddush. Because in the ancient world, you built houses from stone, and you saw the stone. When you learn in the Gemara, let's say in Pesachim, everything is about how far you could put your hands in the stones. Everything was in the stones. The shelves were stone. Everything was stones. Udvir b'toich habayis, and this, and in the Kodesh HaKadoshim in Pnimo, from within, heichen lesitei shomes aron b'ris Hashem. That's where they put the aron. So the Holy Ark was put within the Kodesh HaKadoshim with the Fnei Advir. Now here was a Chiddush. The Fnei Advir, and before the Kodesh HaKadoshim, before that boundary, that wall of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Esrim Amo Oirich V'Esrim Amo Roiche V'Esrim Amo Famose. So you have this cube, which is 20 by 20. V'Yetzapeu Zov Sagur. So they smeared, or they covered the entire inside totally with gold. Vayitzaf mizbeach be'erez, and the same thing was that the mizbeach, which was also made from stone, they also covered it with Erez in order that they should be able to cover it with Zov. Now, Rashi says that he doesn't understand. Rashi asks the question, V'tomei ani v'shal Moshe lo nignaz. He says, why did the other, if the Mizbeach is the same size, why didn't they use Moshe Rabbeinu's Mizbeach? It's the same dimensions, and that was made from pure gold. So why did they have to use a Mizbeach that was covered over? So Rashi says, V'tomei ani. He has it to me, he doesn't know. V'itzav shloim es abayis mepnimo. Zov so good, he covers everything with gold. V'ya'abed b'ratukois. Zahav lefnei advid, and he made these like chains of gold, and he put them before the dvid. V'yitzapei zov, and he covered that with gold too. V'eskol abayis sifa zov atom kalabois. He covered everything, the entire house full of gold. Chol mizbeach ashel advid tzipa zov, and the entire mizbeach he also covered with gold. And then he did something very interesting, which is he built 2 additional kruvim. We always know that on top of the here you see, I don't know if it's a clear picture. Here, we always know that on top of the other end there was 2 kruvim, but here there's 2 more kruvim that were added in. He took olive wood and he built these 2 more kruvim, 10 amos kamosay, 10 amos high, 5 amos knaf kruva echad, 5 amos knaf kruva shenis, 10 amos mektois knafav at ktois knafav. So basically you're going to have 2 more kruvim, ginormous kruvim, not kruvim that are on top, 2 ginormous kruvim, and their wings are basically from one wall to one wall, and then this wing touches the other one. So you have 2 kruvim that between their wings, the entire span is being here you can see, the entire span is being covered. 5 amos knaf kruva echad, 5 amos knaf kruva shenis, 10 amos mektois knafav at ktois knafav, ve'ezav amos kruva sheni mida achaz v'ketzav achaz shnei kruvim. Koimas a kruva echad 10 amos, the height is 10 amos, v'chein a kruva sheni, v'yiten es a kruvim torch abayis apnimi, v'yifrishu es kanfei a kruvim, v'tiga knafo echad bakir knafo kruva shenis, negaz bakir shenis, v'chanfeim al torch abayis nugus konaf al konaf. It's touching from wing to wing. V'yitzaf es a kruvim zahav, and it was covered with zahav. The one thing that I did get a shtickle nechama from that, you see that even though I was thinking that, is there any other building in history that was described by ancient scriptures or ancient texts that was reconstructed, at least in the 3D version, the way people reconstruct it today? It's fascinating. I don't know if this could be, I don't know, but I don't know of any structure that's being described like in a period of 2,500 years ago, that there's a description written down that that it was possible for people to reconstruct at least the dimensions of how it was we know today. I mean, even when you go into the 3D versions and all the different graphs that were made, I mean, you can disagree with exactly how the inner shape looked like. But the basic concept is the same all over, and it's amazing that people sit in Schwitz and work through all of these dimensions and all of the details, and they're actually able to reconstruct something from 2,500 years ago. It's pretty cool. Now we're going to talk about the doors going in. Mesa kola. It was covered with designs. And what were the designs? Pituche miklois, again, cylinder designs, kruvim. From kruvim there was these cherubs which were engraved onto it, vesimoiros, and palm trees, ipiture, and ropes, tzitzim, and flowers, milifnim v'lachitzim, from in and from without. It was covered with these beautiful designs. And the floors were also covered with gold. And the doorway that was separating between the Heichel and the Kodesh HaKadoshim was also dalsas. There was doors atzi shomen from olive wood. And the doorposts were made were made almost like pentagon shape. Usually a doorpost is a 4x4. This one were made chamishas with a fifth point, and it was like a cool design that you had it narrowing down into a point. And it was also made with again, it's again describing the designs that were on these beautiful doors that was made from olive wood. There was designs of cherubs. Timoiros is atzedekel, is palm trees, iftude, and ropes and flowers. The tzipah zovan was covered by gold. Now, once they covered it by gold, they hammered in the gold in order to keep the design, in order for the design to show. Vayared ala kruvim ala timoiros esazov. So they put the gold on top, and then they hammered them out. So here you were able to use a hammer, because it wasn't actually being used on the stones. So ala kruvim ala timoiros esazov, and that's their design. And in the ancient world, it was a tremendous feat to create such beautiful experiences. You know, the other day I was in a shul, and I was in the parking lot. I wasn't in the shul a long time, and I see 3 Teslas in the parking lot of the shul. And it was at like that moment that I chapped that Tesla's not so chashav. Not so chashav. Because, you know, 5 years ago, if you had, there was 2 people in the entire, you know, neighborhood who was driving a Tesla. When you go into a shul in the parking lot and there's 3 Teslas parked over there, it's not so chashav. Whenever you have things which are common, it's not so chashav. When sometimes you go visit these old mansions from like 200 years ago, you go down in Ringwood State Park and they have this mansion. You go to Rockefeller, you go up to Rhode Island and you see these mansions and you're like, wow. It's like, okay, it's not such a wow. It's not like, you know, people have such mansions today. It's not such a big deal. The answer is relative to when? In what time period? In what time period? In the time when we're describing over here, this binyan took all the resources, all the wisdom, all the talent that was around in the entire vicinity was all combined, and there was an entire governmental system put into place in order to facilitate that these resources should be crafted to create a certain experience and be put together that whoever walked into this place was awed for life. We always have to keep it in context. There's a reason why the psukim are describing this detail and that detail, because it was so rare. It was such a chiddush, and it was because it was recorded. Even though we break our teeth on these words today to even understand what's coming off, but that's why we're able to reconstruct it. And so again, the tziyurim on it is wheels and chariots, shnei kiloyim, and the other 2 is adelas hashen is gelilim, was also chariots. It's describing the designs on these doors. V'kola kiruvim, and there was these designs of cherubs, the simoiros, v'upetude tzitzim, v'tzipa zov meyushal al mechuka. Again, there was gold placed and it was hammered in, and wherever they designed on the wood and they carved it out, they hammered out the gold on top of it in order to create a golden, at least this image of a golden design. Vayiven es chotzer apnimis shloisha tudei, and they built it shloisha tudei 3 rows gazes v'tur krusos arozim, and another row of these beams on top of it. B'shana Revius Yusad Beis Hashem B'Yerach Ziv. In the 4th year, that's when he built the Beis Hashem in the month of Iyar. B'shana Achas Esrei B'Yerach Bul. And in the 11th month, B'shana Achas Esrei. And on the 11th year, B'Yerach Bul, which is in Cheshvan, Hu HaChodesh HaShmini, in the 8th month, Kol HaBayis, that's when it was built. L'chol Dvar V'chol Mishpat of Yivnei Shevach Shana. It took 7 years for this masterpiece to be built, and that was this description completes at least the first part of the description of Beis Hamikdash Shabbona Shloimo, and Hashem should be mezaka us that when we say that the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi should be built, that it means the experiences that was there in the Beis Hamikdash edition, the Beis Hamikdash Sheni, should come down P Eser, that we should be able to experience the divine through the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi in ways that was never experienced before.